Recorded live at Talks and Tasting Studios, it's the Clerical Errors Podcast, the podcast that shows you what's behind the collar. Let's go.
From the Talks and Tasting Studios, this is the Clerical Errors Podcast, the podcast that shows you
what's behind the collar.
This is Bulligan.
This is Berg.
And this is Vicar.
Peter's here.
Hey, Pete.
Hey, Pete. So, how's everybody doing? Good?
Good. Yeah.
I gotta get something. You know, I have to get something out of my mind before I forget. So, right now, the hottest thing is Caitlin Clark and her basketball, right? And I just want Vicar's thoughts on Caitlin Clark and the Iowa basketball so that we can put it in the show notes. So if people searching this podcast and searching for Caitlin Clark, we would be one of the podcasts that shows up. So, Vicar, what are your thoughts about Caitlin Clark?
I've heard she's a good player.
All right. Well, thank you for your analysis. Now, Peter, you can put that in the show notes.
Is this going to be old news? When's the draft? Are we gonna be old news by the time this comes out?
No. We got time. And I have
as we record this, the grand final is already done. She's done playing basketball.
She lost the final. It was yesterday.
Yeah, she lost. So this will be a week from the loss. So I guess the draft is the only other thing that matters. But she's kind of just a lock for first, right?
Yeah. What are your feelings on that, Vicar?
Yeah, I've heard that she's going to get drafted.
Yeah. How about you, Berg? Do you think we should go back to the draft? Is that?
I mean, like a compulsory military draft?
Yeah.
No.
I have my days where I think it would almost be good, even though we're not at war, just because, it seems like
it would toughen some guys up.
That would be kind of needed.
Not the military. You guys are thinking of the old military.
Oh.
That is not today's military.
Okay.
You want me to go to war? Come on, man.
I mean, but I was actually listening to a biography on William Tecumseh Sherman.
Of course you were.
Yes. And, I was listening to the history of West Point, and it was originally created by George Washington. Well, actually, it was officially opened in 1803 under Thomas Jefferson in order to have, capable military commanders, but also engineers for internal improvements in the country. So
I think that makes sense for smaller countries that, you have
to think in 1803, this was a much smaller country.
That's true. It makes sense for Taiwan, right?
But although, with our infrastructure falling apart, maybe
that's true.
Maybe we could but a lot of things would have to rewind to, I don't know, 1915, 1920.
Yeah.
Then maybe.
So you know what happens to me? I get my speed top 12 list and I get impatient, right?
You just said top 10 again,
top
man.
12.
How many years has it been?
It's been a few.
At least 5.
So I was talking to a listener who really wants this bench press with Joel Osteen contest to get off the ground and really wants to find a way to make this work. And
dude, you need to start going and getting ripped again.
Yeah. So I think anyways, where was I? So I was so
did that really throw you that off?
Well, I like to think I am.
He's always in the gym.
Well, he's always in the gym, but
I need
more
to cut, yeah.
To I mean, he's this is like Drago, right? He's got the money behind him and probably the steroids.
That's true.
So you got to rocky it up, man.
But here's the thing, though. I don't think it would be that exciting. This listener seemed to think the only problem that keeps us from doing this bench press competition was money. She wanted to start a GoFundMe so that we could afford to go bench press Joel Osteen. I don't think money would be the issue.
No.
Well, I think you said in the moment something along the lines of, let's go, Joel. I'll meet you anywhere you want to meet up. The Clerical Errors Army will make sure of that. So
okay. All right.
That is why you were offered money.
But I don't know that I don't think it would be that exciting or fun to watch, really. It'd be kind of like, Peter, you're the only one who remember this, remember when I was state champion in long jump for the Iowa Games?
I do remember that, yes.
Yes. Do you remember how many times I jumped?
Once.
Yes. I jumped once, looked at the competition, they're not going to beat me, and I won. It'd be like that. I'd be like, No contest. It wouldn't be fun. It wouldn't be fun. So, and we all know that if there was a competition between someone from the podcast and Joel Osteen, that I wouldn't be the fun one to watch against him. Would I?
No.
I think Berg would be the fun one to watch.
Oh.
So that brings me to my top 12 list. My speed top 12 list. The top... Peter, play the intro.
Enough nonsense. It's time for Boygan's Top 12.
These are the top 12 competitions that I would like to see Berg against Joel Osteen. Now, there are two kind of criteria. One, it has to be kind of entertaining. And two, it would be something that I'm pretty sure he would mop the floor with him. So
This doesn't sound like a speed top 12. This sounds like just a top 12.
Oh, no, it's going to be speed. Ready?
Number 12.
Okay.
Greco-Roman style wrestling.
Number 11.
Latin translation competition.
Number 10.
Old-timey Western style duel with paintball guns.
Number 9.
Pentathlon. Not the modern, the old kind.
Number 8.
Jalapeno mead brew-off.
Number 7.
Hip-hop dance-off.
Number 6.
Knuckles.
Number 5.
Chubby bunny.
Number 4.
Staring contest.
Number 3.
Drunk poetry.
Number 2.
Biblical history knowledge bowl.
Number 1.
Bench press competition. Honorable mention. Chess. Dance Revolution. Tic-tac-toe. Chinese checkers. Midget tossing. Can I say that? Midget.
I think you can, yeah.
Okay. Jalapeno mead drinking contest. A roast battle. Jousting. Hymn writing competition. Name that smell. Any competition that has to do with knowledge or theology. Survivor. Whack-a-mole. And of course, Parcheesi.
Can you explain to me what Knuckles is? You just said Knuckles.
You guys never played Knuckles?
Isn't that where you just punch somebody in the knuckles?
No.
Okay.
So what you do is you hold your fingers out like this, right?
Mhm.
And then you flick it with your finger. And
Okay, so
Okay. I know what you're talking about
Vicar,
now.
Vicar,
Okay.
can you go ahead and, for the listener who can't see what he's doing, describe what he's doing?
Yeah, so he's holding his hands out, one on top of the other.
exposing my like.
Yeah, he's got his knuckles straight out, so those are front and center.
And then so you flick your competition in the knuckle, and then the first one to quit loses.
Oh, so it's kind of like slap fight or slap boxing,
Yeah.
Right.
but with knuckles.
So Berg, which ones of these appeal to you?
All of them. I think I'd also add, remember that old American Gladiator show?
Yes,
Yeah, that would be so much fun.
Helga.
Yeah.
It would
That's so
it would
funny.
be great just to have the four of us do the American Gladiators thing.
Oh yeah. How about the three of? So we have to have a roster here. The three of us against the four of us against Joel Osteen, and then what's that one lady, Joyce Meyer?
Who's Joel Osteen's Andy Richter?
Who else will we include in that?
Kenneth Copeland.
Kenneth Copeland and the Pope.
You got them all right there.
There we go.
The four horsemen of the apocalypse.
The Pope,
man.
like, oh no, I'm losing the knuckles. That's my Pope.
He gets hit in the knuckles. Mamma mia!
Isn't he from Argentina?
He can
lives
say
in the
whatever he
Vatican.
wants.
Right.
God says so. He can.
Every Pope sounds like that to me.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he walks into the room and he says his catchphrase, "Wow, Luigi!"
Well, I'm glad you made him into Wario as opposed to Mario.
All right, so we should get to the text.
Yeah. Oh, so the text for this Sunday is John chapter 10. It is the Good Shepherd. Jesus said, I am the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. He who is a hired hand and not a shepherd, who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches them and scatters them. He flees because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. I am the Good Shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And I have other sheep that are not of this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock, one shepherd.
All right. So Vicar's preaching. You know, I must admit, every once in a while I have flashbacks of previous vicars. And I had a vicar reading from Isaiah and talking about the wolf and the lamb lying together. It was a wolf. Yeah, it was a wolf, but he called it a wolf.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be lion. What text was he reading? I don't remember. Anyways, don't look it up, Vicar. So
it is in Isaiah, isn't it, where it talks about the wolf and the lamb?
Yes. Is it a lion?
Well, there's a lion. Well, the lion will eat straw like that, like the ox.
Okay. Anyways, so Vicar is feverishly working on a sermon. Where are you at so far?
That's a good question. I've worked on it in my head, but I've not actually put anything on paper yet because I've been working on this other thing.
The student is becoming the master. That's right. So, why is this for Easter season? Anybody know? All right. Moving on.
Why? Why is it, Bullhagen?
Well, I don't know.
Are you also asking the question? You don't know either.
Yes. Well, I guess you...
Well, I mean, I think compared to last week was about the forgiveness of sins and faith. That's how you could have broken down, the two parts of last week's quasi-motogenity text.
Mm-hmm.
This week, here you have Jesus talking about his redemption, but then talking about the church, right? Because I believe it ends with, and there will be one shepherd and one sheepfold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so here you're beginning to see we're moving from the work of atonement, which is done, which is objectively done because it's done outside of us. And now we are moving to the subjective work of the Holy Spirit, in that Jesus is he, the Good Shepherd, are now working through his under shepherds to make that one holy Christian and apostolic church.
And also, kind of follows from the last week's text, is you have the forgiveness of sins again, and the authority of Christ given to the church through the word. And so you kind of have the office of the keys, and then kind of moving towards the shepherd motif, which kind of are interrelated. The fact that, when Vicar and I were talking about this text a little bit this morning, and the things that I think about is we deal in a time where people don't know who to trust. And think of all the wolves out there who come with great intentions, but when it comes to us and people within the church, there is a strong vested interest to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. Wolves that come, how do they appear when they're, or the hired hand, excuse me. How does a hired hand come? What do they care about? They actually care about you? No, they care about what you can provide. For the hired hand, it's money. Not that it's wrong to be a hired hand in a lot of situations, but ultimately, when it comes down to it, who is the one that really cares for the sheep? It is the Good Shepherd. And when we look at the Good Shepherd who gave up his life for the sheep, one, it seems kind of strange that a shepherd would actually die for sheep. That shows that, we talked about war. I've been watching a series on World War II, and you see people willing to die for their brethren, but when this parable Jesus talks about, I guess you kind of parable-esque, I am a good shepherd.
Yeah.
You see a shepherd who dies for sheep, which seems kind of strange.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, he cares for them in a deeper way. And I think you actually see in what Jesus says here, a very clear message of the gospel and how it changes us. The only way that you could truly care for sheep as a shepherd does in this example is love. The shepherd in this situation isn't getting anything out of it except for the sheep. And the hired hand, he shows what works righteousness generally does. It shows that the desire is for yourself. what do I get out of this situation? What do I get out of this vocation? And where Jesus is not concerned about himself, he's concerned about us. And the only way that we can understand that is through the gospel ourselves. And so the gospel teaches us to, and leads us and changes us to start seeing things as the shepherd does, not seeing other people as a means to an end or a commodity or something that we get something out of, but actually teaches us to love others even if at our own cost, even if it costs us dearly, even if it brings us suffering. And so the only way that actually happens is through the gospel. And it all begins with the shepherd who gave up his life for the sheep and who also took it up again.
Yeah, I think that's how it really fits into the Easter season, right? Because we have the good shepherd who laid down his life, and now that he's laid down his life, he's going out to those who are of not of this fold, the ones he needs to bring in, right? The message that's going out to the Gentiles now.
So, you got anything, Berg, you want to add to that?
Yeah. A great resource for this is Home Life in Bible Times by Arthur Klink. Great book. I have actually done a recording of it on my own podcast, Soapbox Shibboleth, so you can get the whole thing there.
Oh, cool.
But there's a whole section here on the Good Shepherd. And, and it's pretty good.
Is there a portion you'd like to read?
Pretty good stuff. Sure, why not? What a picture the shepherd passages give us of the Savior. No wonder the Lord chose the dependence of sheep upon the shepherd to explain the relationship between himself and his people. He is the keeper of Israel, who neither slumbers nor sleeps. It is he who makes his sheep to lie down in green pastures and leads them beside still waters, feeding his flock like a shepherd. Even in the valley where death casts its terrifying shadows, they need not fear, for he is with them, comforting them with his reassuring presence. I have gone astray like a lost sheep. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and instead of punishing us, the Lord hath laid upon him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted. This prophetic passage finds its fulfillment in Jesus, the Good Shepherd, who giveth his life for the sheep. He it is who restores those who have strayed away, carrying them home upon his shoulders rejoicing. It is he who turns them over to under-shepherds like Peter, and all Christian pastors and teachers, since, with the commission, feed my lambs, feed my sheep, a commission which has as its one great condition the searching question, lovest thou me? And with this vital condition fulfilled, in the measure that we become better acquainted with our Good Shepherd, and study his word and imitate his methods, and above all reflect more and more of his unselfish love, we shall be successful in finding and bringing in and teaching his lambs until there will be one fold and one shepherd.
Beautiful.
So you can still purchase this on CPH. Pretty good stuff.
And that's also something we talked about a little bit, is what he brings up is in a way the phrase shepherd for a pastor is good, but in a way it's not, because we don't lead and guide as much as Christ does in his word. And so we are the messengers of Christ. We give Christ. We are not actually the ones who ultimately lead. Just like when we talk about the forgiveness and absolution, do you believe that these words are, how's it go? Not my words, my forgiveness, but God's? And so it is with the shepherd. I mean, how do people recognize his voice? It's not through any particular voice. Doesn't talk like this. Right? It's through the word of God. So,
I mean, I would rather be called bishop anyways, so.
Yeah, that's true.
So, people want to start doing that, you're more than welcome to. Elder Bullhagen.
Yeah, so what is according to this, what is a circuit visitor?
Wouldn't that make you a presbyter?
Underpaid.
Yes, underpaid.
Yeah, kind of.
All this responsibility with no authority.
behind the curtain, a little known secret that
Behind the collar,
excuse me, that circuit visitors actually, at least where I am, get paid. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, every summer I get a check for $120.
Wow.
Living the dream.
Wow, that might cover your gas bill for a week.
Well, there are weeks. So, Vicar, your circuit visitor here in Iowa gave you an assignment for our Winkle, and I thought you could give a brief discussion on it. What is the title that was given to you by the circuit visitor?
Yeah, so I was asked to talk about current challenges to Christians in the university setting, and this is it's good that he gave this to me because I was once a Christian who was in a university setting. So
Not long ago.
Not long ago, yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
They're inside the walls.
So I came up with 5 things that I think are particularly important that I think should be addressed and discussed. So I'll list them off and then I'll talk about them individually. So
Number 5.
the first one is spiritual homelessness, religious homelessness, which generally means those who aren't connected to the church, those who don't really feel belonging to a church. Spiritual homelessness is sort of the what is described as the rise of the nuns, the NONES, not NONUNS, but the nuns, those who don't really identify with any sort of religion. The second thing is a general hostility toward Christianity. This is something that I noticed a lot. If you're a Hindu or a Muslim, everybody celebrates that, but anytime you mention that you're a Christian, there's an immediate sort of coldness to the way people interact with you. And then the next thing is atheism, right? Because that's generally the base worldview that they operate on, right? You know, secularism. You have to be unbiased because it's a university. The next thing is degeneracy, right? The general degeneracy of college campus culture. So things like how extravagant certain parties can be, how extravagant certain hazing rituals can be, that sort of a thing. I know where I went, there were barns burnt down, people who sent to the hospital because of the parties that they went to. And lastly, of course, is biblical literacy. I think that's just a problem in general, but especially so once you get into the college situation, because you'll be assaulted on all levels from anybody. And if you don't know, the basic tenets of the Bible, it's going to be very easy for that person to be persuaded into leaving the church.
So do you think of any personal examples that come to mind with any of these?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know I had classmates who were part of this, or at least were experiencing that sort of religious homelessness, like that I was talking about. So I was in the music program, and oftentimes my home church would actually hire musicians from the university to come sing for like major occasions, so like Christmas, Easter, that sort of a thing. And this classmate actually came a couple times and said, "Oh, this is a great thing because I've been looking for a new church home." Right? This is somebody who grew up very non-denominational, sort of rural, looking for something new. Didn't like the fact that we were the fact that we actually believed what the Bible said, and so actually condemned a lot of LGBTQ things that she also wanted to hold at the same time. So lost friends over that. Of course, there's hostility toward Christianity. I remember, so there's this, I guess you would call him like an open-air preacher. His name was Brother Jed. Okay, he was a Methodist, and he would go across the United States, and he would sort of preach, I guess you could call it, out in the middle of campus. And just walking by, listening to the sort of vitriol that people would spew at him and the kind of hate that they would have toward him. I remember being in a discussion with somebody once where this person knew that I was a Christian and said to another person in the group that we were all talking to that when he walked through, he yelled at this guy, "F you, your God is dead." So, I mean, people who don't care about that all and really don't want it anywhere near them. It makes it kind of awkward to try to talk to people about these things when they're so open about saying stuff like that.
Right. It just seems like, do you get the feeling that it's not really a place for knowledge and debate, more so indoctrination, would you say?
Yeah, well, that's something that I bring up here in my presentation, is that, the universities used to be a place where you went in order to learn and grow in the liberal arts, right, in the humanities. But anymore, it's just indoctrination into this ideological regime, and there's no questioning it. There is no actual, there is no intellectual, how would you say it? There's no curiosity in these people. It's very unquestioning. Well, this is the way it should be. This is the way you should think. And any way that you think otherwise is being oppressive to us.
Right. Yeah. It's a mess, really.
Yeah. It's kind of disgusting.
Any comments, Berg?
Yeah, I mean, it's Albedo. I mean, what else do you say? Everything he said was true. I mean,
it's kind of interesting how in a sense, in certain careers, you're almost forced to go that route.
Yeah.
And certainly there are Christian universities, but they're not immune to any of these things. At least on a level of what percentage of our students are actually Lutheran.
And even that's been at some of our Concordias even, there was a big blow up here, I don't know, last week sometime about, them posting stuff on Holi, which is a Hindu festival. And then one of the Concordias just wished everyone a happy Ramadan. So even our own institutions seem like they're infected with this very pluralistic way of thinking. And
the fact that kind of beholden to the money situation too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well, now it's not all. This isn't all doom and gloom, because I think there are things to do to fix this.
Absolutely.
We have greater technology now than we've ever had. Anybody can learn just about anything from home. So use the resources, right?
Right.
Start the log cabin. Harvard started as a log cabin university for preachers. These things go bad. They have their lifespan. But the thing is like, we can make more of them. We're not in retreat. This is not Dunkirk. Okay?
And the fact
stay your ground.
And the fact that because of this, you don't, I think by and large, what's going to happen is the requirement for degrees in a lot of vocation is not going to be quite as important, because you can learn on your own and you can show competency. I mean, isn't that a sense, Peter, how you got your job and your career?
Yeah.
It's ultimately just studying on your own and taking certification tests on your own.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And in fact, I just heard that the Mayo Clinic now is diversifying, and on their list were people who are blind or wheelchair bound and of different ethnicities that they're now trying to recruit and hire. And it's like,
oof.
Like we are becoming the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union did the same thing, right? Because this is all political. This is all political. One group is, these groups are being favored over competency and merit. And so it'll be very interesting to see how many more bridges get hit by ships, because we are putting people into positions where they are not competent to make it. So,
yeah, speaking as someone who's over 50, the thought of a blind urologist seems quite scary.
Proctologist, please.
Okay.
Or a blind optometrist.
Yeah.
There we go.
Doc, do I have cancer? I don't see anything.
Moving on. What are we doing now? Well, we got some feedback, and we have a few emails. So the first one from a listener is he actually gave the feedback in the form of a top 12 list. I believe a speed top 12 list. Since I didn't write this, Vicar, why don't you go ahead and read?
Okay.
And let's see how you can do. I'll give you the numbers.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Number 12.
That was quite literally the worst speed top 12 imaginable.
Number 11.
But it was also awesomer than the 315-pound bench press from Joel Osteen.
Number 10.
A nerdy but ripped Bullhagen is exactly what the space program needed in 1966.
99 or number 9.
Berg's excommunication slogan, "Let's get weird," would be a good additional podcast to the Clerical Errors Network.
Number 8.
Since the last Speed Top 12 is so bad, the next one has to be better.
Number 7.
Is there enough source material to parody Pope tweets with hot takes from a combined Bullhagen, Berg, Vicar AI?
Number 6.
The eclipse is like putting the world on dark mode for 5 minutes, not liking it and switching back.
Number 5.
Speed Top 12s have the same energy as cold open episodes of The Office.
Number 4.
Bigfoot endorses the Clerical Errors podcast.
Number 3.
Bullhagen's vicarage placement sermon can weave in the phrase clerical errors slyly, i.e. your vicarage is a place where you get your first clerical errors out of the way.
Number 2.
Vicar reading Pope tweets is the most vicar TM thing to do.
Number 1.
Never start an episode again without a Speed Top 12.
Honorable mention for Peter's Laugh and the Moon. Thank you, Zach.
That was great.
Should we answer any of these? I don't understand the number 10. A nerdy but ripped Bullhagen is exactly what the space program needs.
Oh,
talked about
we
the
were
space
making
program
fun of
last
your
time.
glasses.
Oh, got it.
You put on your big old black thick rim readers, and I said you looked like you were in the space program in a bad way.
Got it. Now, when he says the quite literally the worst Speed Top 12 imaginable, what do you think he means by that? Is he a big Eclipse guy, or?
I think it's only up from here.
Okay.
He's got hope for the future.
Yeah, you're on the up and up now. It's just going to keep getting better.
It's true. Like number 1 said, don't ever start
That's true.
An episode without it again. So,
Well, Zach, I will say that my last week's Speed Top 12 list is no longer the worst imaginable Speed Top 12 list. There you go, listener. At me, bro. And we have an email from our podcast mom. Thank you, Zach. We will take all of that under advisement. In fact, I made sure I had one today, so hopefully it's better.
A top 12? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out, I had one today. You drank something? What did you have?
A top 12 list, bro.
You want me to read this too?
Yes, what does our podcast mom have to say to us?
She says, I'm waiting for the return of red team/green team. Suggestions: 1 year versus 3 year lectionary. Screens in the sanctuary versus hymnal use.
Mm-hmm.
All liturgy and hymns printed in the bulletin versus referring primarily to the hymnal. Unrelated, I attended a church that shall remain unnamed, that not only used lay readers for the Old Testament and the epistle readings, but also had the whole congregation read the gospel lesson out loud in unison. Finally, Pastor Bullhagen, have you ever had a vicar whose preaching or sermon writing was unusually strong straight out of seminary? Or has everyone needed a good deal of practice and revision?
So, should I just answer that last one?
Go ahead.
Sure.
Not recently.
poor Vicar.
Point taken.
No, I will say, first of all,
No, my preaching sucked.
come on. I would say that it's funny how when you learn anything, a vicar has come to hear only preaching about. How many times have you preached in a congregational setting before you came to vicarage?
Twice.
Twice.
4 times.
4 times. So they're not going to be good. I mean, it depends upon how you're saying, because I would see improvements on my sermon that I preached 2 months ago. So, and I would say that as someone who has preached a lot of sermons, it's really easy, and someone who still remembers the struggles I went through as a preacher, that it's a lot of it's just identifying blind spots, coming up with ideas, and a lot of that addressing is even before the sermon writing is done. We talk about the sermon idea before you even write it, so it's even hard to say at this point, because you generally don't write a sermon yet without my input at some point along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But every vicar has needed help, and sometimes it's real advice as far as you need to do this, or this part is a little too wordy, or very rarely is it this is wrong, but that happens once in a while. But the thing is, the preaching is not a perfect thing. It's always changing and it's always growing. And I would say what you say about a vicar is something I would apply even to myself right now. I mean, hopefully you've noticed that, vicar, that I'm still evaluating my sermons and I bounce things off you and I like to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. You're constantly trying to find ways to improve your preaching. Yeah,
I mean, you still see, like, at this point that I try different things still.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's always a work in progress. And I would say, what I find is the fact that, and I remind vicars too, is although they're learning, a lot of the sermons are still often better than what you hear in some places.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, vicars are right out of seminary where they've just learned how to actually like form a sermon, how to put it together, which is different than somebody who may have been out for quite a long time and hasn't thought about those same things in years.
Yeah, and a lot of it is too, there is a way of thinking and wrestling with the text that I think a new theologian, like, you notice I bring things up that you haven't thought of, or ways of kind of the way it applies that I never would have thought about that.
Right. Yeah.
It would have taken me years of experience, really, which I offer to you.
Right. Yeah. Because you've been in the parish for 25 years, and this is the first time I'm actually getting the chance. So of course, the things that you bring to the table are the things that I need, which is experience.
All right, then what was the question before that was, lay readers. Okay. Yeah, it's hard for me to say because I have a lay reader every Sunday.
Yeah.
I have the unordained vicar.
This is why we should.
I've never heard of the whole congregation reading the gospel lesson out loud before. Have you, Berg?
No,
I have.
And I guess I take reading the scripture as belonging to the pastor, a la 1 Timothy, and also that reading is interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
You are actually interpreting the sacred text when you read it. And so, like, even I feel like even our reading of the Bible in the public setting is a sermon of sorts. And I emphasize the words and the phrases that I'm going to be preaching on, that I'm going to be engaging, that sort of thing. And so I think that belongs to the pastor, and I think it's fine if a vicar does it because he's also learning how to interpret Holy Writ for the congregation.
Right.
So
I've heard kind of a different view on the reading is where I've heard the theory that it should be as robotic as possible so that you don't add anything to the reading. Have you ever heard that before?
I've heard that many times, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, because that is one of David's psalms, right?
Right.
Have mercy on me, O God. Beep, beep, boop, boop. In sin did my mother conceive me. Beep, boop, boop. Did not compute. For real? I mean, come on. Like, that is ridiculous. That is a ridiculous thing. I mean, I'm sure it comes out of eighth commandment, because I'm a nice guy. It comes out of a desire that the word can do things without our aid. But then why should we get in the way of that? These were real, living human beings. This is why I've been pushing Home Life and Bible Times, because we need to be in their world. We need to know how they lived and how they did things, that they're people like us, that they sweat and they love and they mourn and they encounter tragedy and triumph. And
If
There-
we have to read it everything robotically, like what's the point of even translating it? Because the translator surely changed things.
Yeah, I mean that's the
Are
other
these
thing.
people saying that we should just continue in the Greek and the
Yeah.
Latin?
That's a. Oh, go ahead, Berg. I didn't mean to step on you.
No, I mean that's exactly a right thing.
To get to the reading aspect of it, that is why even the reader, it's good to know some of the language and do some exegesis on the reading, because there are certain inflections and things that in the translating and the understanding of the text that the reader can bring out, even if it's how you say it, that is applicable to the reading.
Now, I do believe in lay reading at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Bible should be read out loud by the head of the household. Hopefully, like every night, like read a chapter, discuss it. That's where you should be reading to your family. And that's also a great way to train the kids too. So,
Right. And then how about the reading the gospel lesson out loud as in unison?
That seems a little weird to me.
That's just weird.
Man, that would make for a long Good Friday service.
Do they also do it in the gospel tone too, or was
I've seen that in the past, but usually when I've seen it, it's not the whole reading. They'll do like a couple verses, or it'll be for a special circumstance.
is it like just the words of Jesus, or?
No. I can't speak super intelligently on the matter. It's been a while, but
Okay.
I have seen it before.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I have seen a Good Friday service where you will have the different parts of the Passion parsed out, with one person reading Jesus' part, and even the congregation being the crowd, like his blood be on us and our children, which once again is interpretation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're actually saying, look, I am covered with the blood of Christ. There's a point to all of this.
Right. So yeah, I've never heard that done before. As far as reading, I've heard of a gospel lesson being chanted. I've heard that before, but I'm not sure how I feel about that. But and then, do you want to red team any of these? Red team, green team. What are the two teams? Is that right?
I thought it was red team, blue team, but I mean, does it really matter whether it's
It is
red or
red
green?
team, blue team. That is correct.
Historically, it's red team, blue team,
Okay.
because the blue team were the Prussians, and there's actually a dark blue that is called Prussian blue.
Oh, okay.
I believe you. I've not heard that before.
Wow.
So
They should have show Prussian Blues Clues. What would that sound like?
It would just look like the normal school system that we already have.
All right. So, is there any of these you want to do, Berg?
you just choose one.
All right.
These are all great.
I will choose. Vicar, you choose.
Let's do number 1.
1 year versus 3 year. Okay. Which team do you want?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay, I'll be team 3 year. You can be team.
Okay.
You can be team 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
I'll be a 3-year as well.
Okay, so I'll be the other 1 year
So it's the Bullhiggins versus the rest.
versus the red team or the green team.
All right.
Blue team.
All right.
Sorry,
So
yeah,
here's the
blue
thing
team.
about the 1 year is I think I would prefer the 1 year if everyone was reading those other texts at home.
Because the 3-year covers all the Bible.
It covers more of it. I mean,
That
there's
was sarcasm for the listener at home, by the way.
It does. It covers more Bible.
It does.
3 times more. Well, 2 times more. 3 times more? Yeah, 3
Yeah, I
times
mean,
more.
we've all heard the proverb, less is more.
Well,
Or
also-
as the classical pedagogical axiom, right, says that non multa sed multum, right? Not a lot, but a lot of a little.
Right. But the thing is the fact that with the 1 year, because it's only a limited amount of text, and by and large, people are not getting more outside of Sunday morning. Even Bible study is a small percentage in a lot of places what you get in the service. And so for a good portion of the congregation, they're only getting that small section, and that's it. That in the liturgy is the only there. So there's a lot of texts they're not hearing. It's kind of like why we've had to go to Passion Sunday, because you get more people on a Sunday than you do on Friday.
That is incorrect, because traditionally the Passion according to St. Matthew was always read on Palm Sunday. But I'll let that one go. You know, the one-year lectionary is tighter, even though it is less text. It's easier for people to memorize. It covers all of the counsel of God in 52 weeks. You have over 1,000 years of hymns written specifically for particular Sundays that aren't stupid. Like when you woke that Thursday morning.
Okay, all right. I'm just gonna say it. This is not gonna apply to every pastor, okay? But I have noticed a little bit that the one-year lectionary can make pastors a little lazy in their preaching, in their sermon preparation, and it can make their preaching a little stale.
And that's why we throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, I mean, if you find yourself in that situation, but it might be throwing out the baby out the bathwater, but it happens.
Busas non tollit usum.
Well, also
Did I just
with
get
the
cursed or
the
something?
1 year,
What just happened?
he's
What's that?
speaking parcel tongue.
Yeah, I'm starting to see what Berg would come out in these competitions against Joel Osteen. So I do think that in my red teaming, obviously I use a 1 year lectionary. That's part of the exercise. Do you want to switch teams?
Sure, we can.
All right, let's switch teams.
I don't care.
All right, go for the 3 year.
All right. So, as flawed as the 3 year is, the 3 year allows you to dive into so many of the distinctiveness between the Gospels.
Yeah, that is true. And it does go through like the epistles in a more of a...
In what you call a lectio continua,
right.
Which is both great and a flaw, because then you don't have the flaw side, you don't have a unified Sunday.
Right.
But on the other side, if you're preaching through an epistle, it really provides continuity in the same way that the gospel provides continuity from Sunday to Sunday, at least in the non-festival part of the church year.
And I would say, too, is now that I've been doing the 1 year, I think for 5 or 6 years now.
Oh, you've been doing it forever.
I don't know, about 7 maybe years. I started at our anniversary here, our 100th anniversary.
Oh.
But I have noticed that there's you can't really judge the 1 year on 1 year. The whole point of it is that there's a rhythm that you get into the habit of, and a rhythm that the church recognizes each year. And it's hard to get that rhythm in a 3 year because, within 3 years you've forgotten everything.
Well, and I think sometimes pastors straitjacket themselves simply to the 1 year lectionary. And the point of the 1 year lectionary is that you're teaching a particular doctrine. You're teaching, a particular concept. And so it's like, it's fine to free text as long as it goes with that particular concept. Or if you use the text, like, start taking from other parts of scripture, and like for Misericordias Domini, right? Mm-hmm. This Sunday about the Good Shepherd. Okay, you should be pulling from Ezekiel about how the shepherds of Israel were terrible and not feeding the sheep and trampling the weak and not binding up the wounds. You can go back to David, who was a shepherd. You can go back to the judges who were talked about as shepherding Israel. You could go back to the patriarchs who were shepherd kings as they wandered through the land of Canaan. I mean, like, you can bring all of this stuff in.
Right.
And people don't. And I think it is, going back to the one thing that you talked about, Bullhagen, is biblical literacy is not there. I don't think the way to get there is the 3-year lectionary. I think the way to get there is people just got to read it. They got to listen to it. Like, get some CDs with the Bible on it and listen to it when you go to work. Or download something, a book on Audible, New King James
Right.
or ESV or whatever, and just listen. You have to listen, because the more you listen, the more you're going to get out of the sermon.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you're not a very good reader, listen to it. So
There's plenty of free resources about that too. I mean, even Thomas Nelson puts out free podcastification of I think most of the books of the Bible.
Really? Okay, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's on Spotify.
Yeah, and we just have to listen. I mean, Portals of Prayer doesn't do it because it's too atomized. It's too constrained when you're only doing one verse. You just have to read and listen to a lot of the Bible. This
Right.
is why people can sing the cruddy pop songs of today. Why do they have them memorized? Because you
'Cause they
hear
sing a
them
lot.
over and over and over again.
Not like it used to be though. There were
No.
some. Yeah, back when
That-
everyone listened to the
that's-
radio.
What is it? TV killed the radio star,
That's right.
right?
Streaming killed the radio star.
And so getting
And-
back to that, I do
yeah.
think the 1-year lectionary wasn't necessarily intended just to be a standalone.
And I think the Lutheran Missal Project has shown that. There are readings for Wednesdays and for Fridays and the like, and they assumed you'd be hearing the Bible. If you look in TLH, you can pray all 151 Psalms in 31 days if you want. So the thing
Yeah.
is it's not hard. We just have to try. That's what this is. It's not hard. The resources are there. And if you can't read very well, you can find the resources to do it, but you just have to push the button
Yeah.
and take the time and listen. And so it is not difficult in the sense that it's technical. It's difficult for people because they want to do something else. And that's something in the Easter season we should all probably fight against. Be like, well, no, I'm going to keep up my Lenten devotion of maybe I'll read, start with 5 verses of the Bible every week or every day. Then go up to 10, then go up to 15. If you want resources, we can post or talk about different Bible reading resources for you.
Can I make a comparison to weightlifting?
Yeah.
Is a fact that what actually provides growth is what we call progressive overload, right? That you're if you're lifting weights and you're just kind of do the same routine, the same amount of weight with the same amount of reps without actually seeking to either change up the exercise or progressively try and get heavier, you're going to actually lose ground. And there's an idea of trying to make it feel difficult, a little difficult each time. And so what you're saying here, Berg, is to always be seeking to progress in that, to actually grow, to kind of not to push your boundary as far as what you know and how you're hearing it and seeking to improve.
Exactly.
And not just resting in the treating Sunday morning like, oh, this is my routine. I do this bench press, this weight, this amount of time. I've done my thing. Let's move on.
Well, and this is why I footnote all my sermons with all of the Bible texts I quote. So that way, if people want to find them, they can. If I want to look it up for reference, I will.
Yeah.
Because I think we have to do that. We have to tell people where things are. Because we as pastors need to, what's the word? Maybe billboard a little bit more and be like, here, this is something you should go read this next week.
Right.
Read about David in 1 Samuel chapter blah, 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 right? Or read this or read that. Let's give them kind of a signposts or signals and say, look, you should really go and do this because this is good for you. Because I do believe people actually want to read the Bible. If they're Christians, they want to read the Bible. They want to understand it. And we should actually say, okay, this is how you do that, right? Mm-hmm. I'm talking about this, and this other thing has to do with that, so you should go read this other thing.
Right.
Because I can't preach an hour sermon.
Vicar and I actually had talked about this I'm trying to think of which sermon it was, where it was one of your Lenten sermons, and where I kind of explained, we do a lot of in sermons telling that you should do something or try and do something.
Oh, yeah.
Without actually giving any kind of instruction of how.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what that situation was.
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember which week it was, but yeah, you asked me to give advice on how to basically, be more in the Bible, that sort of a thing. So, how could you pray more? How could you read the Bible more? How could you, just general advice on things to do, like reading plans and whatnot?
Because as preachers, we do a good job of telling people they should do that more without actually
telling them how, yeah.
The worst thing you can do is start at Genesis and try to read through Revelation.
Right.
That is the worst thing you can do. Because I tell you what, I've been doing this for a lot of years, and I listen to the Bible when I walk on 1.4 speed, of course, because,
you got
I love
things
it.
to do. Yeah.
Well, and I'm walking, because I love it. I want more of it. But I tell you what, you can get bogged down in Leviticus. You can get bogged down in Numbers. You can get bogged down in a lot of these books of the law. And it's like, no, don't do that. Stick with the narratives. Start with the Gospels. And if you have a good Bible, the one that actually has a concordance in it that shows oh, this is referencing this. So when it says that not a bone of his body should be broken in the crucifixion, right? They didn't break Jesus' legs.
Mm-hmm.
That's referring to the Passover lamb in the book of Exodus. Or they shall look on him whom they have pierced. That's from the prophet Zechariah, right? So
I do remember at one time I had a member who every year would read. He would read the Bible from beginning to end in 1 year time, and so he had a daily regimen of doing it. It was actually kind of fun because I would try to guess where he was by the time of the year. So as you read
was
about,
it just straight? Now was it just straight through, or did he do 5 chapters in the Old Testament and 5 chapters of Psalms
straight through.
and 5 chapters
straight through King James?
Oofda.
Straight through King James. Yeah.
Oofda.
He's the same.
Don't do that
to
yourself, people.
It was good for him.
It was good for him, but how many people are like him?
I do that.
You actually read through?
Yeah, I read through twice a year all the way through.
Yeah, I read through the Bible, at least twice, if not 3 times every year, right?
Yeah.
But I will do chronological. I will do Dr. Ben Mays' reading plan.
Oh, yeah.
That he put forward, or Pastor Kine's reading plan. There's plenty of them, right?
Yeah, there's plenty of plans. I just find reading all the way through, straight through as it's presented, to be just the easiest for me. Otherwise, I forget where I'm at and what I'm doing and what comes next. I'd rather just pick up where I left off.
Yeah, and if that works for you, the problem is that the Bible is not chronological per se.
That's
Berg,
right. That's why you need to know your history.
Are there any reprintings that you can get that will
reprintings of
the Bible that will put it in a good reading order, so you don't have to go figure it out? You could just read.
Yeah, there's actually there's a really good plan. CPH has actually come out with it. It used to be the old Advanced Bible History, and they've updated it since then. In that deal, you read the Bible chronologically. You're not really engaging the Psalms or a lot of the ceremonial law, but with every Bible story, it's paired with the catechism. And I think for any adult that might have not cracked a book since high school or might not feel very comfortable reading, something like this might be very, very good for them, just to get a broad overview of the time from creation until the end of Paul's missionary activities. Because you have to have a framework, right?
Right.
We in the old days, we used to have maps. Maps would tell us where we would go and not just GPS. Because I don't want you to be GPS Christians. That's terrible. We shouldn't have to tell you what to do. I want to give you the map so you can go through the forest of the Bible so that you can find the treasure.
This is why people my age generally have a better sense of direction, because when you drove somewhere, generally you needed directions to get somewhere, but you could always get your way back.
Mm-hmm.
You were just always aware of where precisely we are. And nowadays, like if I have GPS to go somewhere, I have no idea where I'm going. I'm just turning right and left and going straight.
Well, and I wonder, because I listened to a whole podcast on this, on navigation and memory, and I wondered if, well, I mean, I don't want to have.
No, it's fine.
It's very on brand.
It's on brand is all, yeah.
I don't want to have Alzheimer's earlier than I have to.
No.
Right?
By the way, when I say of course you did, that's a compliment.
Yeah.
It is, seriously.
It is. No,
But-
for real.
So in the amygdala, that's where your sense of navigation and also a lot of your memory stuff is, right? So I wonder if, because we use GPS a lot to get around and we don't actually use directions, we don't actually think spatially, this might not just hamper our memory, but it might actually degrade it in the long run. So it will be interesting to see what happens to our brains with the advent of new technologies. I mean, this is why they used to call the memorization thing the Loki method or the placement method. You would actually plan a speech out based on like the construction of a house, right? You're thinking spatially to remember things. And so, I don't know, it's one of those things I think a lot about, right? So
I would say I think along that, another way that people kind of do that is to remember something. They'll have a picture of it in their head, and they'll kind of describe the picture.
Right.
Yeah. Although I will say there's something that does combat that a little bit, and I'm guessing because I'm not actually part of this world much or at all, unless it's like Wii Sports or Mario Kart. Is I think gaming, when I see people gaming, it seems like there is a very strong spatial awareness aspect of it, of knowing where you're going. Am I wrong?
I think you're onto something there, because I've noticed just, playing with my siblings or whatever, or any sort of game that involves having to remember where something's at. It's easy to go, okay, here it is in my mental map, and I just need to go to the northwest a little bit, or I need to go left from here.
Right. Like,
I mean, it's same thing with the GPS thing, I think.
Like when I play Animal Crossings, I have to remember where I planted the tree.
You've never played Animal Crossing in your life.
Ha!
That's evident by the fact that he called it Animal Crossings.
Well, they've also argued that geocentric, north, south, east, and west, is better for your brain than anthropocentric, right and left.
Okay.
So, well, and I worry about our parishioners in the long run. I mean, if this affects their memory, that makes it harder to learn the Bible. That makes it harder to do the things that are going to bring them to the kingdom of heaven. And if, GPS or whatever is getting in the way of that, maybe we should rethink those things.
Yeah. I do hear like some of the elderly members will say something like, yeah, I left it in the north end of the cupboard.
Yeah.
like house placement will be on those,
Huh.
They would say, oh, it's by the refrigerator. They'll say it's south of the refrigerator or west of the refrigerator.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
All right, well, we are over time.
We are over time. Well, thank you for listening.
We'll hit your other topics in a later episode, because those are good topics. I really like
I
them.
like your idea. Next time we'll do a red team, a blue team, and a green team. Obviously, Vicar will be green.
Yeah, thanks for
Green
the
party.
idea, Hannah.
Yeah. How about a red green team?
Red green, yeah.
If
We'll save that
the
for
women don't
Christmas.
find, if the women don't find you handsome, at least let them find you handy. Peter, you don't know this reference?
I know what you're talking about.
I love Red Green. He fixes everything with duct tape.
That sounds like a blessing, Berg. Thank you for listening. I'm
always is.
Bullhagen.
I'm Berg.
And I'm Vicar. And may you not be drafted.
Thank you for joining us. This podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Questions, thoughts, concerns? You can contact us on Facebook at facebook.com/Clerical Errors Podcast, on Twitter at Clerical Errors P for podcast, or email us at feedback@clericalerrors.org. Thanks for listening to Clerical Errors. See you next time.